Yo, so May of 2019, the 2018 to 2019 TV season is essentially drawing to a close. And I will do a video later on give detail going over some of the CW finales as I have done in the past. Give Arrow, Supergirl, The Flash, Legend of Tomorrow. Arrow and The Flash have already had theirs. I haven't yet seen what Supergirl and Legend of Tomorrow have done with theirs, but we'll get to that. But 2019 is a bit more than just the end of this TV season. It's also the end for quite a lot of franchises, both on the TV screen and on the big screen. Several big franchises, or parts of franchises, are deciding to call it a close at 2019. So I thought I'd go over a few today, a few that I enjoy, and a few other big ones that are at this point calling it quits. To start off with, the MCU. I mean, the MCU is set to keep going, but the next upcoming film, Spider-Man Far From Home, or you could call it the last film, Avengers Endgame, marks the end of the Infinity Saga, the big storyline that started totally back with Iron Man in 2008 and has now spanned over 22 films. So you could either say Avengers Endgame or Spider-Man Far From Home. They're set to cap off the Infinity Saga. Where Marvel will go from there, we'll just have to see. While Arrow recently finished Series 7, they're set to come out with a shortened 10-episode Season 8 later this year that should take them up to the next big crossover event, Crisis on Infinite Earths, which will then officially mark the end of Arrow. Which, yeah, I kind of feel it's a little bit sad. I mean, the Arrowverse, as I mentioned before, is like my third favourite TV franchise, and I personally loved Arrow. So to see it come to an end at this point, it's a little sad, but yeah. Sticking with the CW as well, while I only recently got into it with Series 1, and I really loved it, iZombie is set to close after Season 5 later this year. Which, yeah, it's a little sad to see, but you know what, it ran its course, and you know what, I'm sure they'll bring it out with style. The Big Bang Theory recently wrapped up its 12th season of the show, and has now decided, yeah, it's time for them all to go home. And with the finale that we did see, I think it's kind of a fitting ending to it, and ultimately it leaves you with a note that said the characters will go on, kind of doing what they're doing, but then we won't get to see it, and it's rather heartbreaking and beautiful, just see a show that has been running for over 10 years, kind of go out the way it did. While I've only seen the first season of Gotham, apparently after it recently wrapped up season 5, and with that they're now calling it quits, which I can kind of see fair enough. I mean, when telling the story of Batman, there's only so far you can really go with it, but you know what, over their 5 years that they did it, they kind of kept going. Each of the 5 seasons, they did good with it. I mean, I've only seen the first one, but I've apparently heard it did get kind of a lot better and much darker down the line. And after seeing the kind of various trailers and promos of it for ages, I can see that it was kind of really loved, and it did do some of the characters justice. With Elementary, I kind of frantically watched the first 3 seasons, but after that I kind of fell behind on it, and I eventually just stopped after a while. But it kept going, and now apparently with the upcoming Series 7, or Season 7, that's when they're going to call it quits, which, like Batman, there's only so long you can drag out Sherlock Holmes stories. I mean, yeah, it is one of those franchises that has stood the test of time, but then there's only so much you can do with kind of each generation of it, and eventually John Lee Miller and Lucy Liu will kind of have to move on to other things, and you know what? It looks like they're going to have a good time with it. Good time with the final season. Anyway, back to the big screen. We've got this year coming up the Rise of Skywalker in Star Wars, and that will officially mark the end of the Skywalker saga. Kind of everything from The Phantom Menace through A New Hope, and then to eventually The Rise of Skywalker. Everything kind of up to that point will mark the end. I mean, I've no doubt that Disney will probably choose to carry on with Star Wars in some form. I mean, they've already got other ones kind of running up, such as Rogue One and Solo, which kind of filled in gaps in the Star Wars saga. But I've no doubt they'll kind of keep trying to go with the Star Wars machine. I mean, they're going to milk that cow for as long as they can. But yeah, I think they're going to try hard with it. And then, of course, we got Supernatural, which kind of announced recently that after its 15th season, it would wrap up. Supernatural, I've only seen the first 2 seasons of it, but I did genuinely enjoy it, and I knew it did develop a rabid kind of cult fan base. And seeing the Winchester boys kind of go on for so long, I bet fans love it. Hell, they even did a crossover with Scooby-Doo at one point, which I've heard fans love. But yeah, there's only so long that Jensen Ackles and Jared Padalecki can go on. So yeah, maybe at this point drawing it to a close. Maybe it might be wise. I'm sure fans will be sad to see him go, but yeah, they did well. And to fill in some other shows that I personally haven't seen that much of, but are apparently also ending in the kind of 2019 bracket. Game of Thrones also wrapped up season 8 recently, and I don't know, I haven't heard yet whether fans were pleased at the ending or are going to be raising pitchforks, but yeah, I've heard multiple things about it, so I only really saw the first season and I wasn't necessarily compelled to continue on. Other people like it, fair enough, it just wasn't my cup of tea. Another 2 that supposedly are wrapping up, one was My Little Pony Friendship is Magic. I personally never saw the My Little Pony franchise, but I have heard it had a rabid following, both in kind of children, teenagers, and later on kind of adults. But apparently, with season 9, they're wrapping up that particular chapter. I mean, no doubt My Little Pony will probably return at some point in the future. I mean, My Little Pony is one of those franchises that just can't seem to die. So yeah, they'll probably find a way to continue on, but their latest chapter, Friendship is Magic, is due to wrap things off. And finally, the last one is the Disney Channel show Star vs. the Forces of Evil. A show I personally never seen, and while I knew the basic idea of Game of Thrones and My Little Pony, I personally never heard of this show, but apparently it was quite popular, and after its 4th season, it's wrapping up. So, yeah, this is going to be a tough time, because quite a lot of franchises that we've grown to love, both in movies and TV shows, are drawing to a close. But this happens every few years. I mean, I think the last time I remember, when they were kind of introducing these kind of big franchises, stuff that's going to be going on for years, was 2012. I mean, I could be wrong there, but that's kind of the last block that I remember, kind of 2012. I mean, that's when stuff like Arrow was beginning. And now we've just got to move on to the next block, see what the future holds. Till then, some of these are still set to continue. I mean, while Arrow's ending, presumably the Arrowverse is due to continue. I mean, they've still got The Flash, Legends of Tomorrow, Supergirl, and they're even introducing Batwoman, which they introduced last year at the crossover event Elseworlds. So, and as I said, the Marvel Cinematic Universe seems set to continue with some good films in the future. With the rest of these, I'm sure they'll find some way to continue on with things we love, either kind of on the TV screen, on web episodes, or even in fan fictions. But for the time being, we're coming to the end of this block. Anyway, till my next video. See ya.